making yourself your first priority. There is nowhere else you need to be. There is nothing else you need to be doing. For the next several minutes, your well-being is your focus. Continue to take slow, deep breaths, allowing each inhale to be a bit deeper than the one before it. Feeling your lungs expand out as you inhale, holding it for a bit, and contracting back in as you exhale. As you continue to breathe this way, feel the journey of the breath through your body. And notice any places where you may be holding stress or anxiety in your body. Unfurl your brow. Unclench your jaw. Let your shoulders drop down from your ears. Open your palms. And now allow your breath to return to its normal rhythm and pattern. But keep your focus on it and allow it to be your anchor during this meditation. If you get distracted by a thought or a sound, simply acknowledge that it occurred. And then gently let it go and return your attention to your breath. When we're stressed or anxious about something, it's often because we don't feel we have control over it. And this sense of being out of control can make us feel less safe and our emotions heighten. An understandable reaction to this is that we try to control the situation even further. We also tend to judge the situation and even our feelings about it. Those judgments and the stories we tell ourselves about it often become bigger than the situation itself, which adds on even more stress, and the cycle repeats. So right now, I invite you to call to mind a situation that you feel is causing you anxiety. What judgments are you holding about it? As you name the judgment, acknowledge its presence. Now give the judgment permission to drop away. You don't need it anymore. Let it go. And what's the story you've been telling yourself about the situation? As you recognize it, acknowledge its presence and give that story permission to drop away as well. You may notice your mind pushing you even harder to hold on to those judgments or those stories. You recognize and acknowledge those thoughts too. And now allow them to drop away as well. Continue to use your breath to anchor yourself back in the present moment. If you get distracted, now let's look at that situation again without the judgment or the story you were telling yourself. How does it feel different? Has the level of anxiety or stress changed? Instead, I invite you to look at the situation with total curiosity. Now, as we move into the silent part of the meditation, give yourself permission to open up to the clarity and direction on what the very next step for you to take is. Not the next 5 or 10 steps. Not all the steps to the end. It's the very next step. Continue breathing with your eyes closed. Just let your attention start to focus back on my voice. Our judgments of the stories we tell ourselves about a situation tend to exaggerate our feelings of unease, anxiety, and stress. They can skew what's actually going on out of proportion. They can block us from seeing the truth of the situation and allowing in the ease and comfort we so desire. So the next time you're feeling anxious, remember to breathe and then notice and acknowledge the judgments about it and the story behind it. Then let them drop away and notice how the anxiousness eases. Focus on the truth of the situation in this moment. You have everything you need right now. Now let's take 3 more deep breaths together. Take a deep inhale and holding that breath for a bit. And exhale it out. Again, an even deeper breath than the one before. Feeling it weave in and out of your muscles and cells. And exhale it out. Last time, your deepest breath yet, sending that oxygen all the way through your entire body. And when it reaches the top of your head and you're ready, you can open your eyes. Thanks for joining me for this meditation and for giving yourself this gift. Have a great rest of your day.
Okay, guys, you may unmute yourselves when you're ready.
Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, Karen. Hi, Shelley.
How's everybody doing?
Doing good.
So, David, are we live right now?
You are live right now, Shelley, and you may start at any point in time you feel the need to. I'm about to start recording. Does anybody have any objections?
No.
No.
I'm still missing some of my teachers. Are there still teachers waiting to come into the room?
I'm actually looking at the room right now.
Okay,
You can start.
okay.
Karen says she can't unmute, so somebody might want to unmute Karen.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
So first of all, I want to thank all of you for coming. And for those that are coming live with us, this is our first roundtable. So a lot of us, we can just relax because, this is just a great way for us to see how this works. And hopefully over time, it can get bigger and better. This is a great vision. I did a roundtable a month ago with some amazing humans from around the world, and it lasted about 4 hours, and we don't want to do that today. But we're just trying to get everyone to have a sense of who we are, the gifts that we bring out to people that are coming to find us in the community, and how we are going to interact with them. I am pretty excited about this. I've spent about 5 years wanting to be a coach and wanting to be seen, and noticing how it's been harder and harder all the time by the algorithms and censorship. And I've also witnessed all of your gifts and all of us trying to be seen. And so collaborating seems to be the best way to make that happen. And plus, just getting brave enough to do it. I've had a lot of fear, which I talked a little bit about today. Before we get started, I'm going to have us just kind of take some time to get into our bodies. So if everybody would just like to close their eyes for a second. And let's just allow the white light, imagine it coming in through the top of our heads, spilling down over our heads, circling around our throat chakra, spilling over our shoulders into our heart chakra area. And everyone just with me, take a deep breath in. And exhale as we allow that light to flow down into our solar plexus, flowing all the way down to the earth as we see it, watering the roots that ground us to this wonderful place. And in those roots, we see the sprouts, all those areas of our lives and our connections that make us beautifully bloom into who we are today. And to my friends and my teachers who've inspired me in my own growth and in the connection that I have made with each of you, I would like you just to take a moment to think about where you once were before we found communities where we could interact with one another, where we found safety and connection, and where we started to learn and love ourselves more and more each day. And as you envision where you were and where you are now, and the friendships that we have come together to have with each other, let's come from that place, because that's what I really want to bring out into the world, is finding those that are lost and giving them this great, beautiful gift that we have. And with that, I'm going to start to open. And I know what we were going to start with was, and I'm going to get my notes. If one of you want to help me remember, were we starting with embodiment or arts?
Embodiment and then arts.
Okay. So the ones of you that were to come with some embodiment, Maya, would you like to start?
Sure. Before I found an online community to share information with, I was sort of in my 20s, and I remember knowing something was off and doing a couple of courses here and there, one for the mind, mindfulness, one for the body, yoga, and coming to the conclusion that whatever was up, it was an energy issue. You know, went through all the bodies, mind, body, emotions, and landed on this energy issue. And for me, it was a downward journey of coming back out of my head into my body so that I could feel the information that I was conditioned not to feel, because the education system that most of us, and certainly me, experienced was so prioritizing what was going on in our heads, and we didn't have many tools for the emotions. So I went from feeling self-conscious dancing in a room to dancing live with these women in Facebook groups, and learning improvised dance, which is my favorite because you can connect to your inner vibe, whatever's going on, and find a way to follow your impulses without knowing where you're going. And I think that's enough for me for now, because it leads on to, for me, it's very connected to freedom as well, which I'm also going to speak about.
Thank you. Beth, would you like to go next?
Oh, me?
Mm-hmm.
Sure. So you want me to answer where I was before? Is that what we're doing right now?
And using embodiment to bring you to where you're at now.
Okay. So my name is Beth, and I live in the suburbs of New York City on Long Island in a little town called Baldwin. And I, like Maya, have been a very heady woman for a very, very long time, and have spent really since my 30s, I'm 57 now, using all kinds of embodiment tools to be more connected in my body. And about 7 years ago, I did a deep dive with some of these other beauties who are on this screen, really into reclaiming my femininity and finding the balance for myself in the feminine and masculine energies. And for me, coming into my body through a wide range of tools helps me connect to my femininity. So for me, my yoni is my yes, no. But if you had asked me 15 years ago what the hell that meant, I would have said, what the hell are you talking about? So, you know, it's a variety of tools and techniques that are about coming home, loving this, loving my head, loving and not judging my head, so that she can give her gifts and that I can also receive and be in the rest of the gifts that my body has to offer me. So again, I use a variety of tools. I'm learning all the time. And so for me, ritual is a really important part of everything that I do. And so all kinds of rituals and practices help me connect to my body. And, you know, one of the things that I may be offering in this group is I feel very passionately about ritualing around the full and the new moon, or the moon at all. And so just for an example, today I woke up at an unbelievably early hour and couldn't go back to sleep. And there she was, beaming through my kitchen window. And I could just stand underneath her inside and feel her wash through my entire system and help me feel grounded to myself and the earth. So again, I'm not sure what else to say at this particular moment,
perfect.
but the women in this group that I know, I adore, and the women in this group that I'm going to get to know, I am sure I will adore too. So thank you.
Thank you. Jody, would you like to go next?
She can't unmute.
Oh, David, you need to unmute, or they can unmute themselves, please.
Sorry, I think I did that to myself because I came in a little late. Okay, let me feel into this. So for me, I spent the majority of my young adult life in my head, as Maya and Beth both said. I was so disconnected from my body. I once went to an acupuncturist, and after it was over, I came home from my appointment. I was, gosh, my leg's hurting, my leg's hurting, my leg's hurting. Like, went on for hours, took a bath, looked at my leg, and there was a needle. The acupuncturist had left a needle in my leg, but I didn't think to look at my leg, to touch my leg, to like, I mean, it was not good. And it's weird because I'm on a non-duality journey, and I won't go down that rabbit hole, but it's sort of just all the oneness, and it's very heady stuff, or it can be, but I've really learned the importance of the body as the vessel. And it was only through getting into my body that I've really gotten all the beautiful gifts that I've had in my life. It started really with pole dancing class, and it was so much more than pole dancing, because I started to really realize like what music my body likes, what clothing my body likes, what fabrics, and it's not what my head wanted. Sometimes I would be like, really, body? That's what you like? But it had a voice. It had a knowing and a needing. And then when I connected with all these beautiful women in the journey that we were on before, I really connected to my cycles and to the moon, as Beth was sharing. And it was such a gift. It came just in time because I have two beautiful daughters, and I was able to shepherd them through, getting their first moon cycle in such a different way than I would have had I not been on this journey, and teaching them how to honor themselves and not just, stick a tampon in and keep going. So, so I'm so blessed to have met this amazing, some of you, and I can see the rest of you are amazing, and to be on this journey. So thank you.
Jody. And I'm going to just have Isabel talk about her embodiment, and then we're going to open up for a couple of questions.
Hello, my name is Isabel, and Jody. Shelley invited me here today, and so really for me, the journey that I had been on was a lifetime of pain, really. Like a lot of the journey that I took was just not being able to actually cope with or deal with the intensity of my feelings and sensations that were in my body. So a lot of the journey took me to experience and build capacity for sensation in the body, recognizing what those sensations were, not giving story to them, learning to just allow those sensations and feelings to move through my body with, I call them feminine embodiment tools, but really to accept the aliveness, which are the sensations and feelings and things moving through my body and outside my body that I take in. So God, I feel so nervous speaking. I'm just going to name that. And so it's been a long time since I've been live on things. So yeah, the journey just took me into being able to hold myself in all that life was bringing to me so that I could be this expression in the world. And the expression in the world that I like to name for myself is that I'm a woman in a woman's body. I love the feminine and the femininity. I feel like it just exudes from me. And I don't wear it or try it on, although I spent a lot of my earlier time trying on different things, taking in different things, until I just was able to really just hold myself, love myself, and be with myself so that I could be with the world and all that's going on. So that's just where I'm at.
Thank you, Z. So I'm going to open it up for questions, and we'll take 3. We'll try to, are they going to be in the chat? Or you guys can hold your hand up and I'll call on you. And then when you ask your question, since I know everybody so well, I'm going to ask who's going to answer the question for you just to save time.
One moment, just Shelley, everyone can actually unmute yourself on your own. I just gave you guys access to that. So go ahead.
So we're asking questions right now on embodiment. Sarah, I see that you're unmuting yourself. What question would you like to ask?
Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't realize that by unmuting myself, I was opening myself up for asking a question. I'm just here along for the ride. I don't know very much at all about what you're talking about, but I'm intensely curious. So please continue and I will listen quietly in the background.
Well, thank you, Sarah, for being here. Does anybody else have a question? All right. Well, if you guys have questions,
Beth has a question.
You have a question.
Oh, no, she doesn't.
I don't have a question, but I would love to say something to Sarah, if I may.
Yes.
Is that okay, Shell?
Yes, and then I'll let me have a say.
So Sarah, I love what you said, because I know it's true for me. And I don't know if some of the other women who are here with me that have been on a similar journey, but all of it started with curiosity. I have no idea what this is, but I'm led here. I have no idea what this is, but my body lights up in some sort of way when these people speak. And I have no idea why. And that's what led me to where I went. And so I love your curiosity and I welcome your curiosity. And I love that you don't even know what to ask, and it's fabulous. So thank you and welcome.
I do have a question for your panelists.
David.
What does embodiment mean to you?
I am going to have, well, May is all excited, so we'll let her answer that.
Embodiment, when clutching for words, was how I described what path I was on. So it was and is finding ways to articulate what I can imagine, it's kind of like, in simple terms, it's walking the walk, not just talking the talk or thinking the thought. I can understand things intellectually, but to actually implement and integrate them into my life, so that I'm expressing it. And it's not just expressing it in the way that somebody else has taught me, but expressing it in a way that is unique to me and an expression of myself and something that I choose and have created so that it's my life. That is embodiment. So, and so it's bringing anything that is not physical into the physical.
Would anybody like to add to that? You may.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so yeah, embodiment for me is basically seeing where you sit with all of the things that make you you. So, you know, if you want to talk about different synchronicities, you would talk about the body, the mind, the soul, getting together and deciding on a path. And a lot of people those three things or four things are all over the place, and it creates so much like emotional trauma for a person. So embodiment means, to me, knowing where everything is going, what everything is doing at the same time. Everything is aligned, but it comes with the understanding that these different parts of yourself can operate on their own, but you bring them in to one. And when you can do that, you're finally on a path, I think, that you should be on. You know, when you know that, okay, my soul feels this and my mind knows this and my body feels this, but I'm in charge, I'm in control. So I'm going to tell my mind this, and my mind is going to make sure that my body does this. It is an awareness of synchronicity. That's the best way for me to describe it. It is, you know, embodiment is what I'm doing is actually leading me towards what I want. I'm no longer flailing in the wind, just doing everything, trying to throw things against the wall and see what sticks. I actually have figured out what all of these entities want to do, and I'm able to synchronize them and move forward, and now I can grow. So
Thank
yeah.
you. Maya, did you have one more question? Okay, did anybody else have one more question before we move on?
Shelley, I see Jamie has her hand up.
All right, Jamie.
I was just going to answer the question, participate in that discussion. I love everybody, what they said on how it means, what it means to them. And I feel like there's almost no right or wrong answer. It's how it pertains to you. And I just wanted to say for me, embodiment means using all your senses that you are given, and not just your physical senses of, you know, touch and sight and smell and where you're feeling in your body, but also those other parts that we're still trying to learn how to name in our body and where they're coming from. But just being aware of that in general, I think is pretty close to being to embodiment, whatever it is that you are trying to embody.
Thank you. So I'm going to remind you guys, when you talk, if you wouldn't mind saying what your name is and where you're from. And we're going to go into talking about another thing that we want to really bring into the group is around art and using nature and our freedom, and how we've used that in our healing, and how you're going to teach it in the group. So I would like first Tracy to talk on that, because she hasn't yet talked. This is Tracy.
Hi, everyone. I'm Tracy. Can you hear me?
Mhm.
Got my headphones on. Sorry, I'm mobile today, you guys. I'm in San Francisco, California, and I've known Shelley since I was very young. And my journey kind of started when I moved to San Francisco, but I learned a lot from her as a child. San Francisco is a very special place to me, and it helped me come back to nature in a way that, if I could just echo what you were saying about the alignment of mind, body, and heart, it helped me come into alignment in such a way that I can't stop connecting with the earth, grounding myself physically on the dirt, and using yoga and other methods to self-heal in such a way that I couldn't even describe how far I've come. It started with self-love and has grown into, as you all know, it's very authentic, your journey and everyone's journeys, coming back to themselves in such a way that I'm just now encountering what I would say a full embodiment, but I'm still on the journey. So I'm very excited to be here with all of you. And it's scary to share your authenticity with with other people. So thank you for having me, and thank you for helping me open up and share what I've learned with this community. And I think that's all I have for now, Shelley. I don't know if I addressed all the.
You did great. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So now I'm going to introduce Karen.
Hi, everybody. I'm Karen Lenka Hedman, and I'm out in Boulder, Colorado. And, I'm so grateful to be on this journey with all of you. And as we're launching out the women in this group that Shelley has put together, and the people that are coming in right now, I am just so excited for what's possible for all of us, because coming together way back when, I think you said it was 7 years ago, Beth, was a transformative period in my life, and allowed me to connect so much more deeply with myself by connecting more deeply with other women, and expanding my mind outside of the tunnel of the life that I had lived previous to that time. So I just wanted to say that up front. I think this is going to be an amazing journey for all of us. But connecting to nature has been, and art, and freedom, all of those things have been pivotal in my ability to not only survive, but ultimately thrive in life. As a child, I was so shy and really had difficulty connecting with people. I had so much going on in here, but my safe place was in nature, and in the dirt, and in the ferns, and in the water. And throughout my life, that has always been my touchstone, ultimately. And so now in life, as an adult and being productive in the world, and doing all the things that we need to do, that is still my touchstone and survival tool of moving my body, being out in nature, quietness, grounding, all of those things. And ultimately, I'm going to diverge a little bit and say that art as well has been that thread of self-connection. So really looking forward to going there in this group about how we can connect more deeply with ourselves and use nature as a tool to do that, and ultimately heal ourselves and thrive more in our lives by using that.
Thank you,
That's all I'll
Karen.
say about that.
And Jamie, are you able to come on so we can see your lovely face?
Okay. Yes. Speaking of authentic, here's me authentic right now. No makeup, in bed. I'm resting up for a big day tomorrow. Just kind of had some body pain, so I'm here with my friend's kitty. So what do you want me to say? Just kind of about
Name,
my
where
role?
you're from, yeah.
Okay.
And how art
So-
has impacted your life. And
Yes. So my name is Jamie, and I've known Shelley for about 10 years. And we taught burlesque workshops together, where she incorporated the blueprints into how to make a routine with that. And so just between her talents and my talents, we've collaborated on a lot of other projects. And how art has helped me is I'm a pretty creative person, and I'm a writer, and a lot of the times writing has been my tool to name the feelings that I'm going through, or the whatever is going on around me, the chaos that's around me. And even though I feel like my brain can be chaotic at times, but unapologetically writing that down on paper, or even lately I've been doing video journals just to brain dump all the stuff that's in my head and try to figure out where it's going, or what's the root cause, or what's the issue that the main issue that is taking place in my life or in my body and in my mind. But just like most of you ladies, and I love watching Shelly's videos that she posts when she dances. And I've learned a lot about that just from her. Yes, I've always loved moving and dancing and stuff, but learning the kind of the balancing of the chakras and also the movement of allowing your body to just move the way that you want it to move, like without any choreography and stuff. And I'm kind of doing the same way with writing. And so still haven't thought about my actual contribution when I speak, but it's going to be along the lines of probably doing some type of vocal exercises or something like that. Definitely making yourself feel silly when you're moving around, when you're saying tongue twisters or whatever.
Well, that will be a huge benefit.
Yeah.
Sound is so healing.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you. Maya.
Introductions. My name's Maya. I'm living in England. I was actually born in Australia and spent my teenage years in New Zealand and came over here when I was a teenager. I have written poetry since I was a teenager. And like Karen said, art just gave me a way of navigating the world. And I'm a professional multidisciplinary artist, which basically means I don't confine myself to a box in terms of what materials I use or how I express myself. I make layered films. I've really enjoyed finding film because it means I can be in the film and use words and the imagery and take people on a journey that stirs their subconscious and involves nature, involves the connection of the elements. So artist, writer, and creativity guide. In the group, I will be sharing some of my work, some of my words. And one of the things that I'm particularly good at is prompts and invitations to get you started in creative expression and explorations, giving you a starting place for those curious, I don't know where I'm headed, but I want to explore this thread journeys. And what most of the women on this call know about me is that I really enjoy and I'm possibly good at sharing the process of life and finding words to express the inner experience that I'm going through. And creating that mirror effect so that there's a conversation and we can see the pieces that are kind of similar and kind of different and get a sense of perspective. So yes, there'll be those two significant parts, I think. I'm also a bit like an encyclopedia. I love asking questions. I love answering questions. But I often don't know where to start on my own. So yeah, there's depths to be plumbed. And that's it for now.
Love. So I'm going to open it up to some questions, or if any of you also want to just add into that, just let me know by raising your hand.
I just want to say, can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Shelly, you're so good at facilitating this. I can see you in practice with the little ones because you know exactly what to say to keep everything organized. So I really appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. What are we supposed to be talking on right now?
Right now, we're talking about like how these are the teachers that will bring in a lot from their art and
Okay.
nature and healing. That's kind of their specialties. I kind of made the questions in the roundtable around you guys' bios and certain things that I already knew about you. So that's kind of how I developed it into. And then just opening up for questions if anyone had any.
I have a question, Shelley.
Yes, David.
Sorry, I'm
You
really
can.
curious about everything that's happening here. So I have lots of questions.
Excellent.
So what is the connection between the embodiment, the empathy, and art? Because Mia was alluding to something there, and I have a background in humanities, so I wanted to get from her perspective because she's been writing poetry for such a long time.
Can you tell me a bit more about the prompt to talk about empathy in relation to those things?
Yes, I read a lot of an author called Maya Angelou, and she was literally writing out her pain out of herself, so to speak, okay? But as she was writing out her pain, she was also connecting with women who had gone through her similar experience, okay? And writing her pain made her see their perspectives and also made her see the perspectives of the oppressors or people who had oppressed her as well. She kind of revolved it. So I wanted to know whether that was just a Maya Angelou experience or was that a across the board feminine experience when art is connected as a healing device.
I think we connect with art. I think one of the gifts of art is that it does engage a lot of the senses all at once, oftentimes. And so as a tool for exploring in terms of being actively making or just receiving, it can bypass your default way of processing and find and speak to you on another level. And that means that the resonance that you experience when something arrests your attention is actually going to be unique to where you are at. So there will be empathy. And I suppose the gift actually in terms of like self-love, which is another topic that will come later, one of the gifts that gives you is that you can sometimes perceive what is outside of you and have empathy for it before you can turn it inwards and experience it for yourself. I know I'm not answering your question, but it's all connected.
So Maya, can I have you think more about that and we'll put that one in the group and give you some more time and then we'll address that better for you, David.
Yes.
And I'm gonna let Tammy and then I'll go to you, Jamie. So say your name and where you're from, because you are going to be one of the teachers in our group. So let everybody meet you.
Hey everybody, I'm Tammy. I'm from the state of New Jersey. Don't hold it against me, it's all good. I met Shelley, I guess a month ago, and quick bonding, I would say that explains our relationship. So my whole career has been spent in kind of corporate and government spaces doing coaching and leadership. And I've kind of been a closet healer. So I've practiced Reiki and light work and sound, everything that deals with vibrations. So for me, nature is the ultimate teacher, right? There's nothing more powerful if you want to find balance than going to nature. There's nothing more powerful than standing in a storm, knowing that there's chaos and turbulence and violence going on. And then the next morning, there's peace. Nature for me is the ultimate teacher. and everything in nature vibrates. So the connectivity between art and even embodiment, if you take things like Reiki and energy work, you can conceptually understand what energy means. When you embody it, you are receiving it and you can feel it physically in your body. So for me, that's what embodiment really means, is taking a concept or an idea and allowing your physical body to vibrate into that space. So feeling love, feeling pain, feeling fear is you're feeling it in your physical body. And that's a good thing because now you've got the ability to process it. So, you know, my part-time job of doing healing work is now moving into the forefront. And I think thanks to Shelley, I'm really leaving the 9 to 5 behind and kind of maturing into what I've supposed to be doing all along. So my training is like on the corporate side, but neurolinguistic programming and understanding neuroplasticity, in addition to like quantum healing, and really helping people heal by understanding how to change the charge that they put on how they feel. So, you know, nature is my greatest teacher of all of it, because all you have to do is stand outside with your feet in the dirt and look around, and everything you need to know about balance and healing and being grounded and being patient, you can find standing barefoot in the dirt. So, you know, I am really just so blessed to have met Shelley and believe so strongly in creating safe spaces for human beings, just to be able to be seen and to be heard and to be held, because our culture doesn't really value those things. And so this space and this group, I just couldn't be more excited to be connected to all of you. I can't wait to meet all of you and hear all your stories, because that's the way we all connect as human beings. And so thanks. I'm excited to be here. Thank you, Shelley.
Thank you. I loved all that. Okay, Jamie, I'm going to give you just a quick one.
Yeah, no problem.
And
I was
take
just
it to
gonna
the group.
Yes, I was just gonna try to answer Dave's question. And I forgot to mention too, I do have a master's degree in English and creative writing and literature. And to answer your question, David, about Maya Angelou, for those that don't know or unfamiliar with her story, she's the author of I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings. And when she was a kid, she was raped when she was 8 years old, I believe. And she stopped talking for about 5 years because that incident was so traumatic to her. And mind you, this was also during the Jim Crow laws. So there's a lot of oppression going on there, and which makes her one of the greatest authors of our time, especially as a Black woman, is to voice all of that. When she wrote that book. So a lot of people, they do write on what they know, they write on their tragedies. I obviously can't speak for her personally, but just to kind of give you a little bit of background, I don't know if you knew that or not, but she was a woman that had some stories to tell, and it took her a while to find her voice when she did finally find it through her writing.
So what I'm going to ask us to do about that is, I think that would be a really fun Zoom call between a couple of us, and we could get some really good information on that question. Sounds like we want some more around that.
Yay.
All right, I'm going to move on to the next topic of our group, and that's on self-love. And that's the other really important thing that we're going to be talking about in the group, which is very important to me. And I'm going to hope I say it right, because I just see, but Biosity, is that how I say it right? Because Maya will tell you it took me 5 years to say her. Is it Biosity? B.
Ooh,
You. I know. See, I knew I was going to say your name wrong.
it's Felicia, but
Alicia.
yeah. So it's crazy though, because my alter ego is Felicity.
Okay.
Ah.
So when you were saying that, I was like, I like whoever this person she's talking about name and sing. And so what do you want me to
So
share
we're
with
moving
you?
into talking about self-love. So I want you to say where you're from
Okay.
and what it means, self-love means to you, and how you're going to bring it into the group.
Okay, so I am Felicia Heyman, and I currently reside in Maryland, but I am from Kansas City, Missouri, born and raised. I retired from the military Air Force 24 years in 2017. So self-love for me is really critical because I went from my mother's home to the military. So I went from structure to structure, never having an opportunity to experience who I wanted to be, and was growing towards. I do believe that all those experiences helped me to shape who I am and to find myself and love myself. But it's a struggle, when you are in those types of organizations. So I am the caged bird that is singing right now. And finding self-love means unpeeling, unpacking, and unfolding everything that people said that you should be, everything that people thought you might want to be, but tapping into what excites you inside, what gives you purpose, what makes you want to wake up in the morning and do the thing again another day. So self-love is, first of all, loving who you are, loving your mind. But to love your mind, you have to unpeel and unfold the things that have been stuffed down your throat from birth, and decide what feels nice to you, what feels right, what feels comfortable, even outside of social norms. So when you are able to say, you know what, my whole life is antithetical to everything that I've been taught, and here is who I am. I actually like this, and this, and I don't think anything is wrong with X, Y, and Z. And then when you say who you are and what you love and how you feel, and you're still living, it doesn't kill you to be you, then you kind of lean into that thing. And you're like, okay, so, nothing bad is going to happen with me being myself. And you lean into it. You find your freedom, you find who you are, you find the people that make you happy, you find the thing that makes you happy, and you go with it. And honestly, I believe that abundance will come to you when you are truly authentically yourself. So that's my 2 cents on loving yourself, and first of all, finding yourself, because we really need to focus on that, especially in the world we live in, finding who you are and loving who you are, and your tribe, the people that resonate with you will find you, and you'll have abundance. So
Hot damn, that was great.
That was really powerful.
Thank you.
I'm going to have you go next, Monica Jane.
Hi, everybody. I go by I go by Monica Jane, all 4 syllables. Pretty please. Fee, I feel like you and I are very much on the same page. So I could say a bunch of the same things Fee just said, or I can add on and we can collaborate.
Okay.
Where are you from, Monica Jane?
What was that?
Where are you from?
I live in Reno, Nevada. Okay. So what came up for me when I heard Fee, which sounded like listening to myself, it was kind of cool, was one of the main issues with self-love that I've found in the clients I've worked with and in myself is the inability to love oneself because of what we hate about ourselves. And Fee pointed to those things in one way, which is, hi guys, we've been told, it just sounded like a duck squawked. What was that?
Someone just said hi.
That was my husband being very rude, coming into the house and wanting to have the stage. So here he is.
Oh,
Yeah. Okay. So, sorry, everybody, but since he wants to be rude, I just decided to let him have his moment.
Well, one of the things, I'm going to divert for a second. One of the things I've been studying a lot over the last 5 or 6 years is nervous system regulation. And so we will just thank your husband for that titration, because what I was just saying was kind of heavy. And it was actually pendulation and not titration. I always mix those two up. He pendulated us out of it, and we're going to dive right back into self-hatred. So what came up for me when I was listening to myself through Fee was that clients have the hardest time with self-love when there's something about themselves that they hate. And what we usually find out is the reason why they hate that about themselves is because they've been taught that it's wrong, bad, unideal, not normal, taboo, gross, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it sounds like rainbows and unicorns and sunshine when we say, find yourself and let go of all the things that everybody, all the social norms, and then you'll love yourself and come into abundance and all of that. And that is true. And the speed bumps come when we're not recognizing that the thing that's keeping us from loving ourselves is the things that we were taught to not like about ourselves, and dismantling that programming.
Yes.
So my personal journey and learning, I identify as genderqueer, which makes my skin crawl sometimes when we're all called women here. And so if you're someone who has a hard time with that at all, I'm your gal, so to speak. Because I don't identify. I figured out that one of the things I hated about myself was that I wasn't feminine enough, because society teaches me that feminine is what Isabel embodies, and I'm not like Isabel, and so I'm not woman enough. And so it's been a journey to recognize that which I hated about myself and thought that I needed to fix so that I could be good enough and woman enough for the world. I learned, actually, I am counter culture, counter gender roles, and that's okay. And I can love myself for it. And in doing that, I receive more love, and probably love that was already there for me from others, but I wasn't able to receive it because I wasn't able to give it to myself. So that's what I'll say about self-love for now.
Thank you, Monica Jane. And with that, we'll go to Alice.
Thank you, Shelley. And thank you, Monica Jane. That was, I'm going to try to bounce right off of what you were just saying about self-hate and overcoming and with identity or gender. That's definitely a part of my story. But hi, everyone. My name's Alice Bellato. I am from Austin, Texas, but I'm actually visiting family here in New Orleans. And I've just been hopping around in my grandparents' place trying to find a quiet space. But it's going to work out. I'm in the princess room, which is perfect for this talk because so when I grew up here, I was actually a boy. And so I'm a trans woman. And throughout my journey, I was brought up in a place where I was very reinforced to be strong and to hold up myself. And I say quote unquote strong because there is definitely a strong and so much power in the feminine energy. But this is sort of a reinforcement that I was brought up with. And so, but as I grew older and I was able to spread my wings, eventually I moved to Austin, Texas, where I was pretty much alone from my family. It gave me some time to find myself. And I happened to meet a woman at the time, and she thought I was a little bit strange at the time. And of course, you got to remember, I looked completely different, and I was expressing very masculine, and so. But there was a moment where I decided to wear short shorts around her, and she was like, "This is peculiar," but she would kept an open mind. She actually Googled "my boyfriend wears short shorts," And here came the post and about transgender, transsexual, all these sort of old school terms around, cross-dressing. And but that really kicked off the conversation because she was able to hold space for me to admit to myself that there was a piece of me that I was suppressing, my femininity, and I chose to emphasize my masculinity to the point where it was toxic. And so I went through a lot of healing, and I went through different identities where one identity was being a crossdresser, and then the next identity was actually genderqueer. But it was towards the end of our marriage that I realized that I needed to transition and to build to live my truth and to get a bit closer to my authenticity. Right, that's the theme. Is for with self healing. There's authenticity is such a beautiful gift, and it's the best gift you can give anyone else. To be able to just live your truth and be comfortable in your own skin. So to hear Felicia and Michael James talk about that, it's like, yes, that is my journey for sure. And but I still went through a couple of years. From that point, we went through a divorce. I decided to transition. That means I was on hormones and eventually had face surgery. But I was struggling as a single trans woman, and I was struggling about this, just all this hate that was directed towards me, saying like, when I'm not a woman, or no one will want to date me because I'm a transgender person, and these are all just things I was saying, I was believing, beliefs, and so, but it wasn't until I actually met my boyfriend who I'm with today, my primary boyfriend, Jay. And he happened to be into Tantra. And it was just a whirlwind experience. Being introduced into polyamory, I wasn't really used to that. And it was just something he really stood by. Well, as we got closer during COVID, we went through a lot of healing. And I was able to unravel through these practices of all the shame and guilt I had around my identity and fighting for labels that were not necessary in order to find Alice. That's what it comes down to, is like just finding myself. So I was chasing around different labels with sexual orientation and different labels around gender, which also serve a purpose and use. But it's also really important to understand the pros and cons of using labels, and what that looks like in terms of sharing labels with other, to share a label with woman or man, or to share label with heterosexual or homosexual. These are all things. It's like, if you want to be seen, yes, but then also there'll be others to be hidden, because it contradicts with their purpose and their meaning and what they stand for. So now that I've gone through this experience where I love myself, I love being a trans woman. I mean, like, going back and looking at the past 10 years was a lot of pain, sure, but like, it's freaking awesome getting to this point and to realize that everything has purpose. That struggle, that pain, the discovery, the journey of getting to this part. This is where life is just so fun. And I am like a unicorn. Like, there's not, well, I'm sure you'll find other Alice's that are other trans women out there, but but I have my sparkle, and I'm just working on myself to tune even more in order to figure out who Alice really is. So some of the things have been advocating for now that I've gone through my self healing and continue to do so, is that I created a support group online supporting men who date trans women, since there's so much shame around men liking trans women, and there's all sorts of reasons behind that. But I wanted to create a safe space for them to be able to talk and open about their emotions. There's so much toxic behavior just within the community, like just in the LGBTQ community. There's a lot of hate directed towards that man that falls in that category of really wanting to be with a trans woman. And so, but I've learned through the group, I learned through the members, and realized that one is like, I want to do this more. And I want to be able to broaden my outreach. This happens to be tied in with my own personal experience, but through through Tantra practice and getting to know other people in the conscious community, it's just been so beautiful to be around all this self-healing that we see around all our family. And so some of the things I want to bring to this group is around the topic of labels and understanding, when if you want to choose labels and understand how that can inflict with other people's experiences. And of course, I do want to talk about what it is to be a transgender woman in a place where there's a lot of talk about the divine femininity and identities around women. And so, and to be vulnerable and to acknowledge there is fear and topic around talking about a man that has transitioned into womanhood. So that can be threatening, right? Because as part of that experience contradicts what we define as ourselves as women, if that's your identity. But I'm here to build to soften the conversation and to have fun with it and to be vulnerable and to learn from one another. I'm also here to learn from you, from the women that have been able to have wonderful experiences, have children, are have these families that are growing in a beautiful way where now you're just seeing all sorts of experiences around you and it's just all about love, right? But the best way we can be there for one another is to love ourselves. If we're not able to be there for ourselves, it will reflect outwardly. And so yes, that's something I like to stand for, is build to focus on yourself first and just see all the beautiful things that will unravel once you get to the point of living every little aspect, every facet of yourself.
Thank you, Alice.
Welcome.
And Beth is going to also share about self-love.
Well, how do I follow these three amazing human beings who just talked so elegantly and stunningly about self-love? And so I think the thing that I want to add or hone in on for me is learning, on my journey before I knew all of you even, was the journey that I was on, is actually finding all the parts of myself and allowing for all of the parts of myself to be seen and heard and valued. And to be honest, I work on it every day, every single day. And so really being present with what's up for us, for whoever, each day, each moment of the day. Who's driving the bus? What part of ourselves needs to have an opportunity to speak right now? Which part of ourself needs nurturing right now? And again, I'll talk about ritual again, how you can create ritual around knowing yourself in that way on a daily basis to nurture the parts that you hate, the parts that have been shamed, the parts that are shiny and sparkly and fabulous, the parts that are dirty and not as attractive, all of those parts of ourselves, and allowing for all of that to integrate within ourselves, for me, is such a huge part of self-love. Because I think we're taught as a culture that only these parts are beautiful, acceptable, to be shown. And so we all, in whatever way, bury, hide, pretend aren't there, and stuff those parts of ourselves that society tells us aren't acceptable in some way, or that we learned that as children or wherever. So that's a really big piece of my self-love practice, if that helps to add to the conversation.
Thank you. And Fee, we're going to go into questions. Fee wants to say something about what was just said or share something. You're muted.
Okay, yes. So what she just said, what I thought was amazing. And this is why I always represent myself as all the parts of myself. When I say I'm spiritual, alchemistic, empathic, bougie, hood, nerd, you might get all of those pieces at once or one at a time, but I embrace each part of myself. And many of those parts are not acceptable in our society, but I am leaning into the fact that those parts are what make me who I am, you know, and so I'm so glad that she brought that up, because you don't have to be this or that. You know, you can be all of what you are. You know, you don't have to partition yourself. And I think a lot of times the cognitive dissonance comes from feeling like you have to choose a lane. But in your life, if you have a life that has presented you with numerous paths and you've enjoyed pieces of the path and you identify with that, then I think it's important to represent yourself as that. And I think that that's going to be one of the things that I bring to the group, is that I am truly multifaceted. You know, raised in the hood in an underserved community. Now I almost have 5 academic degrees. I went to high school for 5 years, not 4, but 5 years. So, I mean, just everybody's walk is different, but all of those pieces that were important to making you who you are can touch the life of someone else. And I think it's important to be relatable in that way, to share with people that I didn't arrive at who I am today just on a one-way street. Trust me, there were forks in the road. I had to decide, and sometimes I double dipped, but this is what it is, because a lot of people are stuck because they don't think that they can think in more than one way. You know, they don't think that they can be in more than one way. They don't think they can resonate in more than one way. And you can. And you can love all parts of you. And so that's what I wanted to add to what she said. And I just think it's brilliant the way she laid it out. So thank you so much for doing that. I'm muting myself.
Okay, Beth, you would like to say something?
Well, thank you, Fee. I just wanted to say thank you to you. I've been enjoying our little message on Messenger, and I'm glad to finally meet you sort of face to face. I think the piece that I didn't say that I just want to throw out to all of us is, I know, Shelley's been sharing about self-care, and self-care is such a important thing, but it's also used in sort of this very almost boxy way I hear so often. And I think part of self-love is, what is self-care for you? Self-care for you might be bougie one day, and it might be the bubble bath and the music that they tell us is supposed to be self-care. But maybe self-care is going and beating the shit out of stuff. Or maybe self-care is, binging on Netflix. Or maybe self-care is rolling around in the mud. But I think that we have this in the culture, I'm not talking about the people on the screen, have this sort of definition that self-care means writing in your journal with a candle and taking a bath. And what might be self-care for any one of us at any moment in time. But to really love yourself is to find what self-care is in each moment and honoring that. So for me, just to give you an example, I am fried green tomatoes today. I didn't sleep well last night. I taught a workshop all day, came home to do homework with my daughter, celebrated Hanukkah. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to text Shelley and I'm not going to come tonight because I'm exhausted and I have to teach again tomorrow early in the morning. And then I went into my body and she said, you really want to be there with Shelley and all these people. So show up. And so, but self-care would have been not. So the thing about self-love is, what does your body tell you right now is your self-care? Tomorrow morning, may I be a little unhappy that I didn't go to bed? Maybe. But the point being is that in each moment, there is an opportunity to love yourself with whatever that self-care is.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to open
Thank you
up
for
for any.
pushing yourself, Beth.
What, Alice?
I just wanted to say thank you for pushing yourself, Beth. Glad you could
Yeah.
join us.
She is a gift. All right, any questions that we have before we move on?
I'm sorry, can I just say something? That's not true. I work really hard not to push myself. That if I was pushing myself to be here tonight, I would have chosen not to come. Because for me, in my physiology, pushing is an old, very familiar pattern that makes me feel like crap. And so I have to choose, am I pushing right now? And if I'm pushing, I need to stop. Or can I do this with grace? And if I can't do it with grace, my choice is to go to bed, and particularly this night, Alice. So I just wanted to address that specific word, because I think, again, in our culture, we're taught to push, 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 push. And let's make a collective decision to try not to.
Yeah,
So
thank you for
I
sharing
see,
that.
I see you're oh, sorry, Alice. I see you're unmuted, Marla, and I'm gonna go to you in just a second. I just want to make a statement to that. What was just said too is it's also about like letting go and trusting. And that's a lot about what's going on here right now too, because the last couple of days I felt a little anxiety too, watching the group, a group that I started that was near and dear to my heart, and then seeing people starting to come in. Not necessarily hearing from all my teachers, but just having the faith and trust that I knew that you all love me and that you would be here for me. And then, you know, I started feeling this pressure, and then it was just like, let it go and go with the flow, because it's already happening. We have already created this. And it is going to be the most amazing thing. And we are going to help so many people. And with that, I will ask Marla, do you have a question, or did you want to add to what everybody's saying?
No question.
Okay. Are there any questions before we move on to the next topic?
I didn't have a question, but I had a comment that I wanted to make.
Thank you, Sarah. What would you like to say?
I just wanted to say that there's a lot of times that self-care for me will look like taking a break, but sometimes, especially when I am finding that I'm feeling really anxious about things that have built up, I find that self-care means like really just getting in there and taking care of the thing that needs to get done, which actually unloads my plate a little and allows me to breathe easier, which is kind of counterintuitive, because usually when you think about self-care, you're thinking about those bubble baths, but bubble baths don't get stuff off your plate. So
yeah, sometimes I got to scream
yeah.
and hit something like they were saying, for sure. Anybody else want to have something to say before we move on?
I would like to say something to comment on Sarah's comment.
Rebecca, can you say where you're from?
Yeah, can you hear me, Shelley?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so I'm Rebecca and I'm from Kansas. Here, let me turn on my camera. I'm from Kansas.
Yay!
Hi. So I wanted to comment on what Sarah was saying, because I think that I tend to default into these quote unquote self-care rituals that we see a lot, you know, publicized, like the bath or like listening to music and laying on my bed. Sometimes those things for me are not productive, like Sarah was saying, in a negative way. So I default and I run away from the things that I actually do need to unload so that I can have real self-care, which looks like just being under less stress. So I can go to as many dance parties as I want and take as many baths as I want, but if I'm not taking care of me in the real world, right, in our physical society world, then I can't really enjoy my bath, because I mean, unless I'm like really deep into meditation, girl, they're coming back, you know, it's there, it's present with me. So I don't know that there's an end to that, but I just wanted to comment on that.
Thank you. And Rebecca is another teacher that will be teaching in the group. Would you like to share things that you would like to be teaching?
Oh, great. Shelley, way to put me on the spot. I am undecided. I think that I mostly want to see what the roundtables, I'm here for the first time, and see what everyone else is offering. And that will kind of give me a good idea of what I can bring the group, because I just have so many things that I have my hands into. I'm interested in seeing what the group needs that I feel like I could bring, and that might just be conversation. Will probably mostly be conversation and support. Yeah, it's too early to say.
Well, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, so we're gonna, is that you, David, or someone else?
It was me.
Okay.
I have a functional question. I try to ask questions that everyday people are going to ask. So in the construct of self-awareness, I just want to step back and it being plugged into the concept of self-love. I was listening to Alice and Beth just now. So Alice went through stages from the cross-dresser to being a trans woman. For people who are experiencing persona shifts, and I'm not talking about Alice's journey necessarily, right? Like the party girl, the party girl turns into the ultra conservative, then the ultra conservative turns into somewhere in between, and the vacillation happens. At different points in time, you would experience personas that won't necessarily serve the greatest good for yourself. Okay, so how does self-love operate along that timeline? So as an example, if I was the fitness guy and then all of a sudden I turned into a couch potato, okay, and I became really, really unhealthy, and I'm wearing a wife beater with the potato chips, right? And I'm watching the NFL and I'm swearing at the TV as an example. Okay. How does self-love operate when the persona shifts? Because the truth of the matter is, when you say self-love, you're trying to extract what self are we talking about. You see, the self-awareness does come into play as well, right? Because the guy on the couch swearing at the TV, smoking cigarette and eating potato chips, he say, man, I love myself. Okay. However, the self that he's loving at that point in time may not be in the best interest of himself, his wife, as an example, his kids, and the general population around him. That guy gets up from the couch and he goes to the gym. He drops a whole bunch of weight, and all of a sudden he's more aware of his body and what it can do, and he sees differently because his experience is now different. How does this work in terms of self-awareness and self-love?
I see Monica Jane wants to answer that. So I'm gonna take it up to Monica Jane. And then I see, I don't know how to pronounce this name either, Shabah. We'll let her go. And I have a feeling there might be some other people that might have some comments. Monica Jane.
Yeah, it's a rich question. Thank you, David. One of the concepts that I like to visit the most is what you're speaking of, David, which I call the pendulum swing. It's not an innovative term or anything. But a lot of humans, including myself, go through this reckoning of recognizing who they've been and that it's been to someone else's preferences or what they were taught that they should be, and they're like, fuck this, I'm gonna be the opposite because that'll make me happy. And then they go over to the other side, the prudish Catholic girl to the having sex with everybody, the drug and alcohol addicted human to getting addicted to like shopping or something else instead, or like service work or mutual aid. And what came up for me, David, is that what I understood your question was like, how does self-love play in all of this? And a couple of themes came up. One is the greater the self-love and the faster that the self-love is growing, the faster a human comes into their own balance, their own space that is right for them, usually somewhere in between the two ends of the spectrum of the pendulum swing. And then another thing I heard in the question was like I'm going to use different words than you used, and I cuss a lot, so hopefully that's allowed in Haven. Is that allowed in Haven?
Oh, it's good for me because I cuss a lot too.
Okay, David, you didn't use these words exactly, but it's like the pathetic asshole on the couch. It has all this like presents as having all of this like pride and self-love in himself, and it's not good for the people around him. Quite often that form of self, well, two themes come up with that. One, it's not for us to judge or know. We might see someone and think like, that is not the right choice for you. That's not good for you, or that's not a good way to be. But for them, it might be their truth in that moment in their life. The other theme is quite often that form of that way of being is not our natural state. It's not our higher self state or our like divine state. And it's often like a facade of self-love or pride that is masking or hiding like a total lack of self-worth and self-hatred and all kinds of stuff like that.
Yeah, that's the point I was actually trying to get at, in the point where that individual, and it's not necessarily, it can be objectively, he can be a menace to his wife and his kid, but subjectively speaking, if that individual on the couch says, I'm practicing self-care right now while he's stuffing the potato chips in his mouth, right? And cursing out his wife, I'm practicing self-care, I'm taking care of myself. So leave me the F alone and let me watch my NFL. In that moment, is he practicing self-care? Is he practicing self-love?
He might be, because it depends on where his nervous system is in life. Like maybe he always did everything that he thought he should do for his family, and he has to swing to the other side of not being a martyr or a savior or a self-sacrificer in order to find the way to the middle. So for his nervous system state in that moment, that could be that he is in self-love. And that's why I say none of us can know that for another person. We can look at it, we can judge it, and we can assess it and say, oh no, you're not, you're just an asshole, all this stuff. But depending on the body doesn't, we've heard the term, the body doesn't lie. There's probably going to be a lot of like cliche catchphrasey things that happen in the group. And with regard to embodiment, do we actually embody those? So the body doesn't lie. So his body might be, where his nervous system state is, might be telling him that his fight mode of telling people, fuck you, and I'm going to eat these potato chips, blah, 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 is the truth in his body in that moment. So that is self-love for that nervous system state, no matter how awful it seems for all of us on the outside of it.
So I think this is a really good topic that we're going to also put back into the group and do some teaching and training around that, because I know we can all really speak to that on how we treat each other. And I think you brought up a really good point about this group, is that we are a non-judgmental group and everybody gets to be who they are. And we are all in acceptance. And I'm going to go up to, let me know if I say it right, Shabara. And I'm going to have, if this is about what we're just talking about, if you guys could keep it short, since we're going to take it in the group so we can go to the next topic. You are still muted.
My screen's showing them as unmuted, but we can't hear you when you talk. Can you?
We can't hear you.
Microphone?
If you want, you can type it into the chat. If it's a question or you wanting to make a statement, can you shake your head yes? Okay, now you're muted. So I'm going to go to Monica while you're, or I'm going to go to Marla while you're trying to figure that out.
Okay, can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Well, am I in the, what topic am I in? You know, I get really anxious when I don't know what I'm supposed to do.
You're in the next two topics.
Two? Oh my. Okay. Well, I thought I was in the self-love one, and you know, I don't like to talk about myself, but I'm so excited to be a part of this group and to see all these familiar faces that haven't seen in a while, like Alice. Hi, Alice. and Jamie and everybody that I haven't seen in so long. But I wanted to say about the self-love, and I guess direct this question a little bit. When I think about self-love, and maybe I can, because I love Maya Angelou also, paraphrase her a little bit. I felt like the idea of maybe my own experience, when you know better, you do better. Several places in my life is, and I've known Shelly for, oh my God, we've always tried to like figure this out, 25 some years, but we have gone through so many transitions together, from moms to, workout people together. And now we're in this whole other, for me, another phase of my life. And I feel like I will never hate myself for where I was. I just appreciate for myself for where I am. And for that couch potato person, wherever they're at, maybe that's just where they're comfortable being until they know or do different. And I mean that, because I guess whether it's that, the knowledge of self and acceptance of self is also self-love. Because I don't necessarily, I can't say that I loved myself at all phases, but hopefully I didn't hate myself then. And I feel like, because of the idea of identity, self-identity, is so hard to know where you were at and figure that out. And because you've challenged me on that so many times about, who I am and appreciating that part of me. It's hard because our identity gets so tied up in, am I a mom? Am I a wife? It gets so tangled, and trying to find your true self and all that. And then really loving that part of you, it gets complicated. So the couch potato person, maybe they're accepting of that and maybe not really taking that inner really self-reflection, not there yet. And, and that, I guess, because I wasn't sure when I was thinking about topics and where I was thinking about that, because that also comes into that safe container thing, not judging other people and allowing people to be where they're at. I don't know, I guess in my practice, I feel like I try to give that to people on a regular basis. You always give that to me. So anyway, just wanted to share that.
Thank you. We'll try you one more time, Shabbat, and see if we can hear you. No, okay. All right, so we're going to go on into health and how we're going to be bringing that into the group and how it's affected our lives. And I'm going to have Jamie come on first. Where's Jamie? Okay, I can't see Jamie right now. So Karen, would you like to talk about health?
Sure. Yeah. I think, like a lot of things, we teach around the things we need to learn for ourselves. And my own journey, both with mental wellness and physical health, has been profound. I have been doing body work for the last 20 years. And as part of that, I've recognized how intertwined our bodies and minds are. And I know we're going to be hitting on, I've been loving this conversation, and there's so many juicy topics in here, but the piece that I feel like I could contribute along that is this holistic mental wellness piece aligned with our own physical health, and how there is such a dance between those two, and the different pieces that we can apply, the knowledge we can apply to move ourselves forward in that journey to bring for me, stress resilience, having that rise to a place where we can actually fully express and show up more fully in who we are in a healthier body and a healthier mind. And so I think it's with all these topics that we're talking about, it's all so intertwined, but I feel like that mental wellness piece tying in with our physical wellness and that gut connection and the heart connection to the brain, how that all works together is really something that I'm passionate about at this point, and really look forward to to discussing more in detail with this group. It'll be really interesting. So, yeah.
Thank you, Karen. All right, Jamie, you're back. Would you like to talk about health and how it's affected you and how you can bring some of your experience into the group?
Yeah, sorry, I missed the first part because I got a call that I had to address. So we're talking about health and what it means to us, or
for you,
for me,
and how your experience. I would like you to maybe share a little bit about that, and then it's going to go to Fee. I'm going to
sure.
Plug the computer in.
So health, okay. Well, it meant something different to me a few years ago, and then I think with all of us as we get older, we probably reevaluate what it means to us or what parts we want to concentrate on. But I had breast cancer about 4 years ago, and I had a double mastectomy, and a reconstruction, and full hysterectomy, and now recently diagnosed with lupus and fibromyalgia. So it means, yeah. So when I say it means something different every few years, I think it's a matter of we talked about self-care and also knowing our limits. I used to be this really fit pole dancer, and now I'm limited to walking and stretching. So I think it's hard when you're not able to have the body that you once had. I mean, I just turned 39, and I know a lot of you are probably thinking, wow, you're still so young. Just let me have that moment. But it's going to mean something different to us every time something happens, and we have to kind of reevaluate where we're at again. But even though our body may start to change, I think I still feel like the same teenager in my mind. I'm sure we all can relate, or as my friend says, the grown-up suit in the kid's body. So it's still, it's important, and to have the mental health and the place that we need to go to have that support is important. And I think that Shelley has done an excellent job, not just with this group, but I mean, with everything that she's ever touched. She has a really good job on emphasizing what the importance of mental and physical health. I don't know if that answered your question.
Good. Fee, I'm going to go to you.
Okay. Can you please restate the question?
So you guys were talking about health, and I knew that each of you had a lot of history around health, and you do a lot of teaching around that too.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so with regards to health, what I'm going to bring to the group, as a nutrition strategist, is basically how your body works, how you nourish your body. And obviously you need to see your body as your body, separate from your soul and your mind and your brain and all those things, so that you can command it properly, and so that you can care for it properly with your nurturing spirit. So with regards to health, I could go so many different ways with it, but I'll streamline it to saying that your health and your body and your pain and everything are merely messages to you, telling you that you need to correct something. And so if you have chronic illness, what I've learned from studying nutrition and also simultaneously being a part of a metaphysical school and understanding, I have chronic pain by Western medicine. I have chronic pain. The naturopaths want to figure out, why do you have chronic pain? But at the bottom line is that pain is beautiful. Pain is communicating with you. Pain is telling you to dig deep. It's telling you to leave no rock unturned towards figuring out what's going on with you. And it's really a lesson in life, period. When there is a shift, it's a message. A shift is a message, whether it's your health, whether it's mentally, whether you went from fitness buff to sitting on the sofa, that shift is a message to you. And you need to leave no rock unturned. You need to understand that it is a message. When you need to be sad is when there is no pain, because there's no communication when there's no pain. There's nothing that can be fixed when there is no pain. And so as it relates to your health, you're going to go through what you go through, but just an understanding that the pleasure in pain, the beauty in pain, the value in the valley, being grateful that your body is responding to you and letting you know, hey, I need you to focus on this. I think I'm going to bring that to the surface in the group is pain, whether it be mental, emotional, whatever. I'm going to remind people that pain is but a message. It's simply a communication, and you just need to listen and figure out what your body is telling you, what your mind is telling you, what your soul is telling you. So I hope to bring that. I hope to be able to communicate that on all levels, from the person with the least bit of understanding to the scholar, to the anatomy scholar. I just hope that it resonates with people that your pain is merely a message.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Marla.
Yes. What? So are we talking about health? I am a mental health therapist. So I obviously believe very strongly in taking care of your mental health. I go see my own therapist, and I love it. I think it's something we should all do for ourselves. I feel like I tell people, my clients all the time, we should, as individuals, we need to be taking care of our mental, spiritual, physical selves on a regular basis. And otherwise we just cannot be our full selves. And I find it very rewarding and to be able to help people think about things differently, have insight, and be supportive, and give them a safe place to be able to process and maybe come up with better ways to manage their emotional selves. And so I don't know. I mean, I feel like that's what I feel like I can contribute to this group, I guess. I mean, I have a big educational background and a lot of experience in therapy, but maybe not as much experience when it comes to as much as, I mean, sometimes I feel like Shelley's more of a therapist to me than I am to my clients, but but that's great, because I grow so much by being a part of these groups, and I get to take all this information back and share it with my clients in ways that is just not, it's priceless. It's amazing what I learn from so many of you guys, the people that I've met. It is amazing. So I love it.
Is a huge point that you're bringing up, that even through all your education, that the things that we bring to this group are things that is not covered in the education and taught to our doctors or to our therapists. And that is why people need us so much. And I'm going to go to Tracy, because I know she put in the chat she wanted to make a comment. And Tammy, if you'll raise your hand to let me know I know that you weren't prepared for this, but if you choose that you want to say something, let me know. Tracy.
Oh, here, sorry. I just wanted to comment on what Fee was saying, and also Marla. In the journey of coming back to nature, it was also a journey of healing. And we're just now realizing the emotional impact that it has on the physical body in so many different ways, as far as dealing with childhood trauma. And so, what you were saying about taking care of your mental and physical health, it's all connected. That was a big learning experience for me on my journey in nature, was connecting the mind with the emotional, with the physical, and learning how to release certain blockages. And I've been listening to this neuroscientist that they're just now discovering that rapid eye movement during deep sleep actually helps heal PTSD. So there's so many different ways we can use our bodies to heal emotionally as well. So I'm just really excited to learn more from all of you. And that's all I wanted to say. Thank you for speaking on it.
Thank you. Tammy?
Sure. So yeah, I think Fee's really onto something. As women, we're taught that anything negative or anything at all that doesn't feel good, we push it down. And so we push it down like a ball underneath the water. The problem is what it takes to hold the ball under the water causes so much stress on our mind and our body and our emotions. So even fear and anxiety, we really have to just sit with that and look at it as a sign that says, look at this information. You need to know this information. And my experience has been, when I hear whispers, I ignore them. And then they get louder and louder and louder till we're in crisis mode. And now I have to face whatever issue it is that I need to face. So I think Fee's like right on the money, just really sitting in the things that are uncomfortable for us until we're comfortable. The other thing that, as it relates to health, I see as a crisis is alcohol. I've recently divorced alcohol. I drank every night. I was very connected to it. And I hadn't realized that really alcohol, the reason I don't drink anymore is the same reason I don't smoke cigarettes. The science, particularly for women and breast cancer, a glass of wine, it's so glamorized in American culture. And I'm not demonizing a glass of wine at all. I'm just saying that particularly with COVID, alcohol abuse has gotten significant. And when we talk about health, we need to take an honest look at how our society looks at things like sugar and glamorizes it, looks at things like alcohol and glamorizes it. And we need to teach our kids what true health really looks like, mind, body, and spirit, not what society's telling us is good, healthy food. So I'm a really big proponent in taking full ownership in the things that we put in our bodies, and not just, letting society tell us what's healthy. So I really love a lot of the thoughts that some folks were sharing. Health is, it's a very holistic thing, right? So anytime there's disease, it's a cause from dis-ease, and we have the ability to heal ourselves. The body is remarkable. And, from my perspective, everything vibrates in the universe. Quantum healing or quantum physics is, we have the ability to make tremendous change just by simply shifting, our mind, body, and spirit, and how we use our bodies as we experience our life. So everybody's remarkable. I'm just so excited to listen to everybody and their beautiful gifts. And Shelley, just thank you for taking a leadership role and bringing us together to support each other and care for each other.
Thank you so much.
I agree. Thank you, Shelley, so much.
You are very welcome. Anybody else want to ask a question or have something to say about that?
Okay, quickly. Honing in on the part where she talked about, kind of leaning into, she didn't say it this way, but I'm going to say it this way. If everything is interconnected and you're using alcohol or you're using something to comfort yourself, aside from comforting yourself, because sometimes you just need to comfort yourself, sometimes you need to just release, also set aside some time to listen to what that desire is telling you. Listen to what addiction is telling you, what I need alcohol. Sit in that moment, sit in that emotion. And before you reach for the alcohol, make sure whether you go through with it or not, you know where you stand, you know what's going on, you understand that there is something going on. And then that, you're going to come back to it. But right now, if you feel overwhelmed and you need to do what you need to do, go ahead. So that's it.
Thank you. Monica
Yeah.
Jane.
What I in the journey of somatic experiencing and nervous system work, I have come to learn how powerful my mind personally is and the stories that it tells. So I love the invitation fee to like check in on what that desire is telling me.
Yeah.
And my mind is very sure that it is right and correct. And so the other channels of the nervous system of like body sensation and emotion and leaning into those for anyone here who's like very mind heavy and trying to become more embodied are really important. And like, what is that desire telling me? I found that the most true or honest answers come not from me figuring it out or thinking of it. Oh shoot, my laptop's gonna die. Figuring it out or thinking of it, but rather it comes to me. Otherwise, my mind just thinks it frickin' knows everything and tells me some bullshit, and it's not true. So sorry to make you dizzy. I'm looking for my laptop plug. If I disappear, I'll be back. But I just wanted to put that in there. And I wish Christine were still on. I saw her drop in for a second, and she's a somatic experiencing professional and would have like even more guidance on how to actually listen instead of and notice and distinguish when instead you're just trying to like figure it out and your mind is coming up with answers rather than the truth coming through about the desire. That is
Marla, your hand is up. Do you have a question? Did you want to?
Oh, no.
Okay. All right. Does anybody else? And if not, we'll go on to the next topic, which is near and dear to my heart. Okay. So the last thing that we are going to really focus on in the group and bring up is that about safety and trust and love in the community and why that's so important. And I'm going to have Alice talk about that first.
Thanks, Shelley. Just reflecting here. So safety, love, and trust. When I think of safety, are we talking about its community?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah. So the first thing that comes to mind is the creating safe space. And to acknowledge that when we start talking about our experiences, that we're going to be triggering one another because some of our experiences contradict what we feel is what we have learned or what is the purpose of life. And so I do like to remind folks, like whenever I talk about my experience, that perhaps I might use some terminology that makes others to be uncomfortable. It's okay to be triggered, and to keep an open mind where people will be able to express their anger or any sort of misunderstanding and have room for questions. In terms of, I guess, like when talking openly or in a group setting, to really focus on just like our own experience, rather than trying to put a label or put an experience onto someone else. And from the feminine perspective, that is definitely a very strong temptation. Is try to say this person is like that, this person is feeling that way, and versus like objectification. And so that's the first thing, or like mainly that what comes to mind when I think of safe. And then love, to be able to love someone exactly where they are in their life. So if you're witnessing a man that's a couch potato, where he was a fitness, someone that was always in the gym and he's just letting himself go, but he's happy, to be able to witness this person, even though they feel like they are taking care of themselves, but they may not necessarily be seeing from the other aspect of, your body needs care also, and so there needs to be balance in other ways. But just to be there and to witness the people as they're learning about love, and to understand that you're exactly in that same position where we have our blindfolds, like we were not able to see in certain aspects. So to create an open space, to be humble, to know that we are both teachers and students, right? I always lean on the idea of like love is in balance, or it's balance, is not in imbalance, but like love will be balanced. So for us to be able to understand that we are going to be teaching, or understand that we're going to be taking space back to understand that we're going to be learning from the ones that we're advocating to. And there's like that's the fast way, you know, the fast path into life. It's if you can balance those two ideas of vocalizing and balancing out your throat chakra, right, and to be aware of that, like you're gonna go so much faster. There's gonna be so many lessons learned, and this is gonna be so rapid, and it's so beautiful when you start observing how like you get lessons, and like a lesson could be like a month, and then you get another lesson that's a couple of weeks, and then constantly you see the synchronicity that's happening, and it's just because you're starting to be aware of how like we're just children. We are just all children, and it's okay to surrender and to be vulnerable with others that are teaching from a different angle, and that's love.
Thank you,
Beautiful.
Alice. Jody, would you like to talk a little bit about the communities and?
Oh gosh, I don't even think I knew I was talking on this one, but I'll do it. Alice said it also beautifully, but I'll just add a couple things, because I've been in groups where there's a beautiful container of safety and ones where it's not, and it's so important to hold that safe space, and a place where we can be vulnerable and be real and authentic and not be judged. Confidentiality is just absolutely 100% key. Like what happens in Haven stays in Haven, like Vegas. And then the other part that Alice didn't speak to, but I know we've all discussed, is advice, giving advice, and how as an energetic being, like how when somebody gives you advice without consent, it can just like deflate your energy, and how important it is to not give advice without consent, to say, hey, I have a thought on this, are you interested? And be okay if they're not, because sometimes people just want to be seen or witnessed, or as Alice so beautifully said, loved exactly where they are. And I want to jump on with everybody else, Shelley, and say you're holding a beautiful container right now. Like you're keeping it concise. You're like, okay, well, let's continue this topic somewhere else. Cause you know, as the feminine, we could just go, you know, talk and when I say feminine, I don't mean woman, man. So I just wanted to make that clear. Just that the feminine emotional self, which we all have the feminine and masculine, and we all know that here. So we don't have to go down that rabbit hole. But so I love the container that you're holding today, and that you're keeping track of the things that are rich for discussion, and that we can continue to discuss. Because there's things that I could definitely say, but I can feel all our energies kind of flagging. So thank you for holding the container.
Thank you. Marla, would you like to talk about the importance of a container and safety and training or trust?
Right. So I always, you know, it's always a challenge for me in my practice, you know, to meet people where they're at, you know, because I work with people all the time that don't always see things the way I see it, or have the same belief systems or value systems. And, you know, just being able to meet people where they're at and keep that safe container and not have judgment. And you and I talk about this all the time. And I think because you and I used to run together all the time, that analogy of and understanding that some people are, a lot of us in the group feel like sometimes we're marathon runners, and we have to recognize that some people are just running to the first stop sign in their journey. And we have to recognize that and accept that. Sometimes we forget that some people are at the beginning of their journey when we are further into it. And because we forget sometimes how far we've come, or where we're at compared to other people, and not having judgment with that. And I think like that is a part of you know, creating that safe container for people, is just not as recognizing where we're at compared to where other people are at. So that's what I wanted to share about that.
Thank you. And Beth, would you like to contribute?
Thank you for the invitation. And thank you to all of you who have already spoken to this beautifully. I think for me, we need to acknowledge that humans are judgmental. Humans are judgmental. And so when we say this is a safe space and we don't hold judgment, that needs to be operationalized into actual behaviors. Because the reality is that people judge each other, even when you're not a big judgmental person whose judgments come up. It's part of our triggers, as Alice so beautifully talked about. So people are going to have judgment in the group. And so I think our work is, what do we do with that? What do we do with ourselves when we feel judgment? How do we hold space in the container? Because again, if we're practicing self-love and self-awareness and self-acknowledgement, to pretend that we don't have any judgments is again diminishing and putting aside a part of ourselves. So to me, the creating of the safety part of it is, how are we teaching each other to handle our own judgments? And how do we bring our judgments to the table when a judgment arises for us in a way that is respectful and that it could be put on the table to shine a light on it for everybody's growth and healing. So I feel like the words, we're going to have a safe container. Well, again, Coach Shelley is modeling right now what holding space in a safe container is, but I don't think that we can say we're going to have a safe container. We have to show what that looks like, and we have to model that, and we have to have it defined. Because what safety is to each person may not be exactly the same. So what does it mean that we have a safe container? And so I know some of the ground rules that you've been putting out, Shelley, are gorgeous to support that. So to me, these concepts all need to be communicated really clearly, and that have behaviors attached to them. Like, we don't give advice to each other. You know, Jody, you brought that up, you know, so that, what it means to have a non-judgmental, safe container is clear to people, so that within themselves, when the shit rises, because as Alice said, we're going to trigger each other, we're going to trigger the people who are learning from us. How do we manage that? And so that's my 2 cents.
Thank you, Beth. You definitely brought some things up in my mind. Monica Jane.
Thank you so much for saying all of that, Beth. When the words, this is a non-judgmental space, happened earlier, I was like, I wish that were true. So my dog is chewing on a hard piece of cheese. It's yak cheese. And if it's too noisy, I know Zoom's pretty good at canceling, but if it's too noisy, let me know and I'll take it. Okay. It's like grind. I love that you brought that up, Beth. And what I wanted to bring to the table for the community is the evolution of the term safe space. Safe space was created to create openness, create community, and create safety for people. And then it has been realized that that term safe space, like, you can't guarantee safety. I'm going to go back to the nervous system and the body again. It is a very individual experience, safety is. So if you look around the screen right now at what people are doing, their facial expressions, what's happening in your body as you do that, and I invite you to do that, is totally different than when I look at one person's face and the other person's face and the other person's face in my body and everybody's bodies. So this was recognized. I come from the land of like sex coaching and stuff like that. So this term safe space is really popular. And the evolution of it went toward using the word brave space. And a brave space means that we're going to be brave and courageous and bring our vulnerability, because you can't guarantee safety. You can ask people to create safety for themselves and for each other, but it's all relative. Bravery and courage is something that you can bring to a container. So brave space started to be the trendy thing to call spaces, and safe space was put away for a little while. And then now the next step was safer space. And the term safer was meant to say, you know, we can't guarantee that it's safe, but it's safer. And now the term is safe enough space. And so it's like we're going to do everything in our power to create safety through community agreements and holding people accountable and using restorative justice and, you know, things like this to reestablish safety when a rupture has happened. But we can't cover all bases. That's just unrealistic. As Beth said, we can't make sure. I can't be in each of your minds when you were looking at all of those screens of all the judgments that may have come up for you, good, bad, or in between. And so safe enough space is a term that is trending now for this very topic and these themes. So maybe we as a group can feel into what term works best for us for what it is that we're intending to create here. And it might be one of the trending ones like safer space or safe enough space. The thing about safe enough space is red alert. How many people's bodies, when I say, oh, it's a safe enough space, goes, what the hell does that mean? Like, I don't feel safe. Yeah, exactly. So safe enough space, I don't really love it myself because so many people have that reaction. However, it does create the inquiry if they're brave enough to ask, like, safe enough, what the hell does that mean? That doesn't feel safe at all. And then you explain what it means. So anyway, we can maybe come up with the terminology that vibes with us. We don't have to go with anything that's trending. But I think it's important that we take into consideration, you know, what Beth said and how do we react when the judgments happen. And just one little plug of a self tool that came to me in like 2013 when I was walking around an apartment complex, judging the shit out of my then boyfriend, was all of a sudden, I didn't figure it out. It was one of those things that came to me because I was feeling the feelings. Was what is it about myself I'm not loving right now? Because anything I'm judging outside of me is a piece of me, and that's why I can see it, and I don't like it in them. So what is it in me that I don't like?
Bravo.
So little trick, or not even a trick, a little prompt to give yourself when you do feel that judgment. It could be something we add to the toolbox of when you do. This is not a non-judgmental space. We are humans. When we do judge, we are committed to examining what it is about ourselves we're not loving, addressing it with others if need be, not bypassing blah, 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 blah.
Okay, so I love that. We're going to put that on as we are going to do a more training around that in the group, and we're going to have a whole other Zoom call about that. I think that would be wonderful. I'm just to respect everybody's time. We're going on 2 hours, and that's about the limit I wanted this Zoom call to be, just to respect everybody. So with that, I'm going to have Karen and Fee go really quickly to say what they have to say, because I would hate for someone to want to say something and not get to say it. And then I'm going to do a close.
Thanks, Shelley. I'll be super brief, but I think this is a great conversation to dive in more. And from somebody who comes from a place of big history of self-judgment, I stopped showing up because I was afraid of being bad or wrong. And so that safety piece is in this conversation of we're all going to be having our judgments. One thing I call for myself is to be spacious with each other and recognize that this isn't about being perfect and showing up in a way that's going to be okay with everybody else, but having that spaciousness and coming from a place of kindness and recognizing our differences and are doing our best. So I just wanted to throw that into the pot because I don't want to live my life trying to be good by other people's standards. And I'm trying to expand that, but I also try to show up with other people in that way.
Thank you. Fee?
I'll just say that, difference of experience is respected here. And we may need to just say that, how we when we were in the other group together with PLA and we set containers and we said specifically what we were not going to do. And we said specifically what we encouraged and what would make us feel supported. So I think using those key phrases is going to be important also when we're setting containers, you know, because it kind of jogs the person who has something to say. It gives that person kind of a compass as to, hey, I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this. I am doing this. It's very clear. And what my expectation is X, Y, and Z. So I think that if we did, you know, make our own containers, you know, kind of in that same vein, I think it'll be awesome. Difference of experience, empathy. You know, the purpose is giving empathy and giving love, and the goal is creating an expanding community. And then with that, you go into what you have to say, and then you request specific support. You said no advice, but if someone did want advice, maybe we could say if you want advice, you could pick a
You ask for
teacher.
it.
You could pick a teacher and ask them on the sidebar for advice.
Mhm.
You know, or if you wanted support, how would you like to be supported? I think we can kind of we have a very good blueprint to go by, but I just think that being pretty specific about what we want and what we expect is going to be key.
Thank you. I see you, Jody.
Wait, can I just say, if I said no advice, that's not what I meant. I meant no unsolicited advice. So, so when you share, you could say, I'd love advice or I'd love to be witnessed, but no unsolicited advice is all I meant. Yeah.
Right.
Right before Isabel, Tracy, and Tammy, do you guys want to add anything to any of that before we close?
Working in large groups, we all are very strong, powerful women who just, I think, are bursting with this kind of beauty of our gifts, right? And sharing and learning and growing. And I think Monica Jane said, we're all here as teachers and we're all here as learners. So as long as respect is the foundation for which we connect with each other, we're all good. We accept that we make mistakes. The human brain is always looking to make meaning of everything. So yeah, there's judgment that's going to go on. But with large groups of people, as long as respect is the baseline value that we all carry for each other, we kind of hold the safety under the auspice of, I see you, I respect what you have to say. And when people get triggered, they ask for help as the learner. And then it gives us space to all be teachers in a space where we all carry our own gifts. So respect for me is always the word that when carried into all relationships, creates a good baseline.
Beautiful. Thank you. Tracy.
Tammy, I can already tell I'm going to be asking for your advice. I really love what you said there. And I just want to touch on the judgment piece. I oftentimes find my insecurities through my judgments. So when I find myself judging issues, I can then, like, I think it was Monica Jane, that your judgments teach you more about yourself than they do about others. And so I just wanted to say, I promise to love all of you unconditionally and try to see you for who you are. And I'm really excited about this group, Shelley. Thank you for the space.
Thank you. So with that, I just want to celebrate each of you, and with my most gratitude for you coming and being involved in this with me. I would like for some of the admin to make sure that they save the chat so I can read through it, because it was too much for me to try to read the chat and stay completely in tune with what's going on. And I will open it up. You can either go, or you can have a closing, or you can have a celebration. I'm going to leave that to each of you to take care of yourself and what your body needs right now. And nobody was a bother. Everybody here was completely appreciated. We love all of you. It will be live in the group.
Shelley, I'm driving, so I just want to say how powerful this feels to be part of a group of women. And I'm reading your comments, ladies. Thank you for all of them. They're beautiful.
Are we still?
Yeah. What would you like to say?
Oh, I don't want to say anything. I mean, yeah, I don't want to say anything.
I'm letting everybody, you can go if you want, you can stay